or narcissistic than ever. Harry and Meghan are facing quite a lot of criticism after their rebranded website has come out, plus what exactly happened in that meeting that Harry had with his father, who's got some new information about that little visit that might shock you. Hello friends, welcome to the King YouTube channel. At this point in time, I have completely lost track of just how many times Harry and Meghan have claimed that they have reinvented themselves. They have rebranded themselves. Now, of course, the latest is this new website of theirs. We've got an article about it in the Express. The rebranded Sussex with their relaunched website are more narcissistic than ever. I mean, the truth of the matter is you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still going to be a pig. Harry and Meghan keep on trying to convince us that there's something they're not, that they really are. These philanthropic, humanitarians, kind people, compassionate. I mean, obviously that's not true. And it doesn't matter how many times they rebrand themselves, they are still going to be seen for what they are. A couple of grifters. Well, let me tell you, grifters might actually be one of the nicer things you could say about those two. I'd go as far as to call them narcissistic bullies. According to Christopher Smith's piece in the Express Online, Harry and Meghan shamelessly use their royal titles whenever it suits them and conveniently ignore them when it doesn't. Honestly, they really need a reality check. It's time for them to accept that their brand is dead. Trying to make Sussex a thing just isn't going to happen. And didn't they get the memo from Queen Elizabeth herself that merging Sussex Royal wasn't allowed? But of course, Harry and Meghan seem to think they're above the rules. As Christopher Smith points out, anyone who thought the Sussex brand was done for is in for a rude awakening. These two from Montecito act like it's their divine right to live luxuriously while preaching down to everyone else from their high horses. It's absurd, isn't it? Let's talk about Meghan Markle's belief that she and Harry should rub shoulders with folks like the Obamas and the Clintons. Former presidents, mind you, it just doesn't add up. What exactly has she accomplished to think she's on their level? Not much, really. She had minor roles in acting, like on that show Suits where she barely had any screen time. And before that, she was just a briefcase girl on Deal or No Deal, not exactly groundbreaking stuff. And Harry, well, besides claiming he was this hero pilot in Afghanistan, turns out he couldn't even pass the pilot's exam and had to settle for being a gunner or co-pilot. Plus, what else has he done? Chief Impact Officer for BetterUp? Sounds made up if you ask me. The truth is, Harry and Meghan don't have the credentials, talents, or skills to be telling us what to do. They need to check themselves. Well, according to Smithers, Harry got some award for being a living legend of aviation, but honestly, what's so extraordinary about his service besides his name? It might sound tough, but Smithers is just saying what we're all thinking. Harry being a legend of aviation. Give me a break. I mean, I've been on a plane before. Does that make me a legend too? Or let's talk about my friend Sheila, who worked as a flight attendant for like 30, maybe 35 years. I'm not even sure if she's retired now, but if you ask me, she's more deserving of that title than Harry. She spent way more time in the air than he has. So besides being called a veteran, what else has Harry really accomplished? Well, I guess he's an author now. He wrote Spare, which became a bestseller and apparently broke some record for the fastest-selling nonfiction book. Though I'm not entirely sure I agree with that label. Smithers says the book, if you can even call it that, is unflinchingly honest, really. Because a lot of that so-called honesty has been proven to be pretty questionable, if not outright lies. So here's my biggest gripe with Harry and Meghan. They think they can just make up their own reality. It drives me nuts. They believe that if they say something, it automatically becomes true. Like when Harry claims he was this top-notch Apache helicopter pilot and this decorated military hero. Or when he accepts some award for being a living legend of aviation. Sorry, but it doesn't work like that. I'm not buying into this idea that reality is whatever they want it to be. And as for Meghan, claiming she's some accomplished feminist activist or whatever she calls herself, it doesn't make it true. We see right through you, Meghan. You're just a washed-up actress who happened to marry a clueless prince. Nothing to brag about, if you ask me. It seems like I'm not alone in feeling really frustrated with Harry and Meghan's shaky grip on reality. Smithers, along with many other commentators, seems to be so infuriated that he's losing touch with reality himself. He even suggests that Harry is completely under Meghan's control, jumping at her every whim. Smithers goes on to talk about Harry's obsessive and legal battles with the tabloid press, which just highlights his self-centered victim mentality. It's pretty scary, isn't it? Harry and Meghan are so fixated on painting themselves as victims that they'll stoop to any level to get sympathy from the public. But what are they even seeking sympathy for? Last time I checked, it was more commendable to overcome hardships and build a life for yourself. But I guess Harry and Meghan don't see it that way. They think playing the victim card is an easier route to take. In this article, Smithers goes on to suggest that both Harry and Meghan share a tendency towards seeking empowerment through playing the victim and seeking sympathy. This behavior, he argues, reveals a deep-rooted narcissism in both of them. Wouldn't you agree? The prevalence of this victim mentality in our society doesn't bode well for the future. Instead of seeing themselves as survivors who overcome challenges, many people today seem to use past trauma as an excuse for everything. I agree with Smithers, it's a symptom of narcissism. Meghan is a prime example of this. She often fabricates stories about her past, claiming she was underprivileged or a victim of sexism. But let's be real, was she really? She climbed the ladder using whatever means necessary, including her sexuality. Meghan's not a victim of sexism, in my opinion. It's the men she's left behind who are the real victims. So let's circle back to Meghan Markle's supposed accomplishments. Smithers reminds us that she's hailed as a feminist and a vocal supporter of gender equality. He also mentions her advocacy for family and community bonds. But honestly, it's hard to grasp what all of this really means in a practical sense. I mean, my head's spinning just trying to understand it. Maybe you should check out the newly relaunched Sussex website and see if you can make sense of the message they're trying to convey. I've been there, and let me tell you, it's confusing. It seems like a bunch of jargon thrown together, probably written by Meghan herself. Lots of buzzwords with little substance. They claim to be empowering communities, but what does that even entail? What are they actually doing? It's all just vague promises with no real action behind them. We see no concrete evidence because there isn't any. Anytime Meghan starts talking about how she's a champion of family values, I've just got to laugh. I mean, just look at her own relationships with her own family members. That tells us all we need to know. There is only one single member of her family who is still involved in her life, and that is her mother, Doria. Everybody else she has ghosted, she has ignored. She has cut off, she has screwed over, basically, especially her father who took care of her entire life. Meghan Markle doesn't care one iota about family values. Smithers also calls out the hypocrisy of Harry and Meghan boasting about their achievements when they haven't really accomplished much on their own. He points out their direct ties to the British royal family, which they shamelessly exploit or conveniently ignore when it suits them. But without those ties, who are they really? Well, in my opinion, they're just like empty barrels making a lot of noise. That's all they are. And this is something we've discussed time and time again with them. Despite their wordy speeches and desperate pleas for attention, Harry and Meghan have nothing substantial to offer. It's always look at me, listen to me, but they don't have anything meaningful to show or say. Indeed, even Harry's sudden visit to see his father after the cancer diagnosis seemed more like a ploy for attention. He claimed it was to support his father, but let's be real, it was poorly timed and hastily done. If Harry truly wanted to be supportive, he would have coordinated with his father for a more suitable time and stayed longer. But instead, he just rushed to the UK without even consulting his father's schedule. That's on Harry, not King Charles, and let's not forget Harry and Meghan's trip to Whistler, Canada, supposedly to promote Invictus. In reality, it had nothing to do with the charity. It was all about self-promotion. It's clear that Harry and Meghan are only interested in boosting their own image, making money, and garnering attention. Despite their claims of supporting various causes, their actions speak otherwise. They're self-serving, plain and simple. All right, folks, let's dive into the next piece of news I've got for you. So there's this YouTube channel called The Royal Grift, TRG for short, and they've uncovered some pretty interesting information. Now, I want to stress that this story is unconfirmed, so take it with a big grain of salt. Remember, do your own research, use your critical thinking skills, and form your own conclusions. I'm just here to share the info with you, and you can decide what to make of it. So, I stumbled upon this post, possibly left in response to one of TRG's videos. It's a YouTube comment from a user named Sally NSU. Let me show it to you, and then we can discuss it further. Alright, so this user Sally shared an intriguing story. According to her, she had a conversation with one of the military security personnel who guards the king. This conversation happened through her husband, who works on a different type of artisanal craft within the royal palaces. Sally was told that Harry had quite a difficult time entering the palace as he had to undergo a complex 1-hour scanning process. During this time, Harry was apparently complaining and begging them to fix something, though Sally wasn't told what exactly. Then there was a lot of shouting, which included Harry expressing disbelief. It seems this commotion was overheard by Charles' permanent private secretary, Sir Edward. Out of the 12 minutes spent in the room, Charles only actively spoke to Harry for 5 minutes, and Harry was instructed to listen without being allowed to speak. After this, Charles left to fetch his wife, and they flew off to SNUB. Furthermore, Harry was detained for an additional 30 minutes because he had items that were not permitted to be brought to the king. After this, Harry was escorted out by a long line of security personnel using walkie-talkie signals until he was returned to the room where his own private security was waiting. None of this sounds good to me, and it seems like Harry is not getting away with things as much as we might think. It appears he is being held accountable to the conditions agreed upon during the Sandringham Summit, which he apparently signed at the time. There are a lot of things happening here that we're not aware of, and they likely aren't in Harry's favor. Just an FYI, it was the government that sent the 2-car armed escort to collect Harry, not Charles. That's what I was told, and certain sections of the royal family are now not holding staff to their NDAs in part, and some information is being allowed to leak out. I don't know about you all, but when I read that information for the first time, I was shocked. If this is indeed true, it speaks volumes about how the royal family perceives Harry and Meghan at this point. And I agree with this user, there's a lot we don't know. There could be much happening behind the scenes that we're unaware of. So for now, I think we shouldn't jump to conclusions about Harry and Meghan getting away with anything. This user might be onto something, suggesting that the royal family is managing them behind closed doors. They seem to know what they're doing. Plus, Lady Colin Campbell has hinted that something significant might happen this spring. Now, of course, Lady Colin Campbell made that statement before we learned about King Charles and Princess Catherine's health issues. But even so, it's possible that whatever she hinted at could involve Meghan and Harry in some way. Perhaps this information will come to light in the spring regardless. It could be related to a super injunction expiring, for instance. While I can't confirm if this information is true, I'm inclined to believe it, or at least I'm going to keep an open mind for now. I'm curious to see where this story leads and what unfolds next. Will King Charles reach out to Harry? Will Harry be welcomed back into the fold if this information is true? I doubt it. I think Harry and Meghan are in even deeper trouble than they realize. They need to accept that they're outsiders and find a way to support themselves because they have many years ahead of them to do just that. Alright folks, let's dive into some discussion time. In this video, we're going to talk about the comments you all left in response to the video titled GTFO Furious William Swears Never Forgive Traitor Harry and That Woman. In that video, I shared a story from a US tabloid claiming that Prince Harry and Prince William are ready to reconcile, welcoming Harry and Meghan back into the royal family with open arms. Personally, I don't buy it for a second. I'm pretty sure the source is Meghan Markle herself, but anyway, let's see what you all had to say. Alright, let's discuss the first comment I received, shared by Mr. 9. They wrote, "When will you Americans start to understand there is absolutely no way back? The British public would never stand for it. Henry would be booed if he showed his face in public, and it would end the monarchy if he was allowed." First off, Mr. 9, let's clarify something not all Americans think the same way. While some American tabloids may speculate about Prince Harry and Prince William reconciling, many of us are more discerning. Personally, I don't buy into the idea that Harry will be welcomed back with open arms. And it seems Dano agrees with me as they replied, Mr. 9, as an American, I do see what Harry and Meghan Markle are up to, and a lot of us agree. Harry has been ensnared by this manipulative woman by his own choice. I agree he's burned his bridges by going along with her and their reprehensible actions. I feel the same. Mr. Dot responds, "God bless you. I'm glad you acknowledged that comment." Then Susan chimes in, I am American and I absolutely don't believe Harry and Meghan Markle should be allowed back in England. I wish we could get them out of the USA, but unfortunately we don't kick anyone out. It seems that way, right? I still want to know what's going to happen with Harry's visa. I mean, supposedly things are happening with that. Supposedly we are going to get to see his application, and really, he has no right to be in the US if you ask me. He lied on his visa application. I'm sure of that. I'm sure he did not admit to all that drug use. But anyway, Mary adds, I hope so. And Jay Moore states, most Americans know this. We just keep praying. He moves back and quits playing pretend American royal. I don't know where he needs to move. Honestly, I don't think any country deserves to be cursed with Harry and Meghan Markle being there. And now let's discuss a comment from the ever insightful Kate London. Kate writes, I feel like Harry makes the worst possible decision at every turn. To me, it's obvious the Sussexes are flat broke and most likely headed for bankruptcy. That's why Harry is all of a sudden willing to go back to the royal family and help out. Obviously, Dum Dum has no idea how unpopular he is now, Kate. How much damage he has done. And that option has been off the table for years now. It's simply too late and way too dangerous. I honestly don't see a path forward for Harry at the moment when he gets divorced. I could have seen him going off to live in Africa, but now with the African park scandal. Do they even want him there? The one place he hasn't screwed up is Mars. So maybe the palace could park him there once Meghan Markle dumps him. Okay, I love this comment so much. I agree with you. I do believe that Harry and Meghan are soon going to have to file for bankruptcy. There's no way they're going to be able to sustain their current lifestyle with their spending habits and lack of income. And as for where the two of them can go, I guess Mars is about the only option. Now, first Antarctica popped into my head, but then I remembered about Harry's frozen penis. So even Antarctica, I guess, is off the table. Last, we got some responses to you too. Sue writes, Meghan's brother wrote that letter to Harry warning him he should ruin his life if only he'd listened indeed. Sue, Harry was warned by multiple people about Meghan, and he didn't listen, and just look at him now. Well, what can we say except you do end up reaping what you sow? Kate's response to, I know I read that letter, and I was like, yes, Harry should listen to that guy, really, when you think about it. Thomas Jr. wasn't going to get anything by writing that letter. In fact, if anything, he had nothing but good things to gain by having a brother-in-law in the royal family. So yes, he's a bit scruffy around the edges, but Harry would have been well advised to fly him to the UK and at least hear him out. I agree with you, but I think by that time Meghan Markle had him so well wrapped around her little finger, he wasn't going to listen to anybody who said anything bad about her. And then Sue's agree, I like listening to Thomas. He's got insight and a great sense of humor. I agree with you guys. I really like Thomas too. I mean, I do feel bad for him having Meghan Markle as a half-sister, but at least he has done some things to get the truth out about her. Folks, that is all the time we've got for now. So please let me know what you think about this interesting YouTube comment claiming that Harry was shown how much of an outsider and how truly unimportant he is when he went to visit his father. And also let me know what you think about Meghan and Harry's rebranding. Is this going to work out for them, or are they going to be the same losers they've always been? Can't wait to read what you all have to say. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do like and share it with anybody else who would appreciate it too. And don't forget to click that subscribe button so that you never miss a single update. From the King YouTube channel, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, and I'll be back to see you in the next videos.